Hi everyone, we're actually going to wait a couple more minutes until 10 o'clock exactly so we can get more of our comrades to join us before we begin. Morning everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. So on the agenda today is integrating into the community, applying for benefits, the poverty discussion, and then just some housekeeping updates to keep you guys on track. All right, so we're going to start with Jake.
All right, integrating into the community. So obviously, many of you have been in your communities for a month now. Some of you are from the communities you're serving in, though some of you might have moved great distances. Many of us have experience integrating into a new community, but it's always good to get a refresher for any aha moments you might not have considered where you are now. In the PSO assignments, I believe you were supposed to learn about your community, but in terms of demographics, what the poverty rate is, etc. This section of the webinar is meant to help you learn to integrate better and give tips for that integration. Simple things to connect to your community. These are just some simple tips to help with integrating, an overall view. Obviously, it's important to join in and do local things, but always consider the grass is always greener problem. You might not be able to wait to get out of your community for the weekend, but you might be missing out. That's not to say don't get out, but look local first. Always stay ready to learn. Be open and receptive to possibilities you might not have considered before. Don't continuously compare and contrast your culture to their culture. That can mean anything from a difference in neighborhoods to bridging the gulf of language barriers. We all have different cultures. Every institution has different cultures. A community will have a collective culture different to the community culture you're most familiar with. Again, be open and receptive. Always respect the human condition. We all suffer. We all laugh and love. Let the community's happiness be your happiness. Let the community's sorrow be your sorrow. Be prepared for complex relationships. In Sault Ste. Marie, for example, I had arranged to have a new roommate. The day before she officially moved in, she got into a drunk driving accident and killed a local high school senior. In smaller communities like that, you can never be truly separated from what goes on. Personal integration. Do your research. It might take a little poking and prodding, as smaller, lesser-known places don't usually advertise well or at all. However, if you put in the effort, you will be handsomely rewarded. Show up. Always be somewhere and try to be everywhere. Before you get the chance to introduce yourself or hand out a business card, people will see your face. They'll know that they saw you somewhere doing something in the community. It's even better if they see you helping the community. Try to shop and eat local. Mom and pop shops, though harder and harder to find, are all great ways to support the community. It's understandable that on a VISTA budget you need to shop at bigger stores with lower prices, but find one thing at least you could go into a small local store for. Become the Ethiopian coffee-only lady or the cat sweater guy. To be known for a silly reason is to be better than not known at all. Follow the local media. Most cities will try, to varying degrees of success, keeping a Facebook page. Follow them. Read the local newspaper, the actual physical copy, because yes, they still exist. Watch the local news station's broadcast if you can. Listen to the local public radio channel. Social media also counts for all of your established and potential community partners. Follow them. If you're a little shy or introverted don't feel right exploring by yourself, explore when you have guests. Generally, people want to make sure others have a good time, and it'd be a pretty boring tour of your community if you didn't know some of the history and interesting spots. Learn these on your own ahead of time and take people to them when they visit you. Finally, if you're up for it, just go out and explore. Go to places, go around places, go through places. Know your community and let your community know you. Professional integration. Network. This is important for anything in life. Your network is your net worth. People know people, and the more you know, the more you can grow your database of potential contacts for projects, leads, funding sources, etc. Do a community walkabout. Go with a peer or colleague, or even someone you're serving around town. Meet who they know. Go where they like to go. Let them lead you. Do some on-the-spot visitations to local businesses. Let them see your face and know who you are. It may seem pointless to visit a lumber yard, but 6 months later, when you're looking for wood donations, the proprietor might be more likely to donate to the person who took time out of their schedule to introduce themselves. Look for either a young nonprofit professionals network or some other kind of young professionals network to join. Obviously, the likelihood of there being a YNPN in a rural area is lower than in, say, Grand Rapids or Detroit, but you're still a professional. Find a local network to make more contacts, broaden your horizons, and invest for your future. Another great resource is a service collaborative, or specifically an AmeriCorps collaborative. And as luck would have it, we actually have an in-house expert on the topic.
I think you guys did a walk around for part of the PSO blend, but I'm not entirely sure. Megan, you're unmuted, so you can go ahead and talk.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I think I mentioned the West Michigan AmeriCorps Collaborative at our training, but just as a reminder, I'm the board chair of the West Michigan AmeriCorps Collaborative. I has been a part of it actually since the beginning of my first term last year, and for me, it's been really important to connect to my community as well as becoming more professional. It's been an opportunity to learn what a nonprofit board is like and to connect AmeriCorps members professionally and socially. So if you are in the West Michigan area, if you're, all over Michigan, you're invited, but it's probably more convenient if you're in West Michigan because most of our events are in Grand Rapids, but we are very interested in collaborating on the lakeshore, in Muskegon or even in Kalamazoo or Battle Creek. So if you want to start something up, just let me know and we can get people there. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. You can sign up for our newsletter on our Facebook page, just West Michigan AmeriCorps Collaborative. If you just type that in, you'll find us. And we'd love to have you.
Great, thanks, Megan. If anyone has any questions for Megan about the West Michigan AmeriCorps Collaborative, you can feel free to ask them in the question box or the chat box, or reach out to Megan separately afterwards.
Okay, great. Okay, so applying for benefits, we're going to talk kind of quickly about the food assistance program and the Medicaid program and stuff that we are, for the most part, eligible for. So I understand that there are going to be a few questions as we move through these screens, and I want to encourage you to ask them in the question box or the chat box, and I promise to answer all of them either out loud or personally after we're done. As always, you are more than welcome to email or call me with questions. So let's go ahead and get started here. So a little background on the SNAP program. The first food assistance program is credited to Henry Wallace in 1939, and the first administrator of the program was Milo Perkins, who said, we got a picture of a gorge with farm surpluses on one cliff and undernourished city folks with outstretched hands on the other. We set out to find a practical way to build a large bridge across the chasm. So just to give some perspective of what's happening in the United States around this time, FDR is president. World War II is happening in Europe, and the U.S. has declared that it's neutral. The Dust Bowl, which was a severe drought and wind erosion that leads to starvation in U.S. and Canada, is happening, and it's coming to an end around 1940, so things are starting to look up a little bit. The Great Depression was in 1929 and continued through the 1930s. So a program like this, the food assistance, is desperately needed. People are literally starving and have little to no access to food in some places. So since then, the program has gone through multiple changes. It's gone through lots of adjustments, lots of reformations, given numerous amendments, and looks virtually nothing like the original structure. The program nowadays is intended to be a supplement to your actual food budget. So it's not meant to provide all of your food budget in one lump sum, although luckily for most of us it kind of does. The amount an individual or family receives is meant to get them through a time in their life when the assistance is needed, but again, it's not meant to cover all of the costs of your food. So some of the qualifications that you're going to go through, expenses, income, your assets, and the residency requirements. So this is what the state of Michigan is actually looking at. I'm actually going to start talking about income first. Individuals and households may qualify for benefits if they earn a gross monthly income that is 130% or less of the federal poverty level for individual household sizes. So roughly the gross monthly income is $1,245 or less for an individual. And just to be clear, gross is like before taxes. So there's other things that they're going to be looking at. So like the expenses that you have, so like your shelter costs, which is like your rent, your mortgage, any utilities that you have, those all count on your case. Dependent care expenses, which is like if you have children and stuff like that. Medical expenses also can count if you have a significant amount of medical debt. The asset limits, they're looking at like what's in your bank account, do you own a car, some of that kind of stuff. And then the residency requirements are pretty simple. You just have to live in Michigan to qualify for Michigan food assistance. And that's pretty true across the board. If you live in Massachusetts, you qualify for Massachusetts food assistance, etc. Okay, so this is to give you an understanding of the most recent determination of the federal poverty level. This is what DHHS uses to determine who is above and below the poverty line. So this is earned $11,880, so they're actually $110 above the poverty line, which is just, I just wanted to show you this to kind of give you some perspective on what's going on. Okay. The qualifications for VISTA specifically, just to reiterate and stress, our stipends do not count as income. Do not let them count it as income. In order to prove this, you have to send in the verification letter from CNCS or VISTA, and that can be found on myamericorps.gov. So this is actually a screenshot of the, this is actually my personal MyAmericorps. So you're going to look for the My Service Letter on the blue screen, not the red one, and you're going to put in the service term that is current. You're going to put in the VISTA Public Benefits Disregard Letter. You can put in the name and address of the recipient, but that is not necessary, and then you're going to hit the print button.
And they are the recipient, right? Or
It's
who's
actually,
the recipient?
The recipient is actually like your DHS
Oh,
office.
so like dear caseworker.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So again, you don't need that, but if you want to mail it professionally, you can always do that too. This is an actual copy of the letter. This is what it will look like. There's a couple of different letters that are going out, so make sure that it's this one, because if it's not this one, then you've sent the wrong one. So just to point out that the date will be current. This is actually where your name will be. Then it will give the dates that you're serving. And then this right here is the main point of the letter explaining why our stipend doesn't count as income. And once they have this letter, they will make the changes in your case. So some of the other verifications that you're going to need when you go into the office or when you're sending your stuff to them. So you can kind of look through the list. You're going to need some sort of identification. Your picture ID is fine. Social Security numbers for everyone in the household who is applying, which for most of you will probably just be yourselves. If you are applying for like a spouse or children, then you do have to have their Social Security numbers. Income, and that means all income.
But to go back to the household thing, if you are living with a roommate, you are still a household one.
Correct.
Essentially, you don't need to put your roommate's info on there.
Correct. You are only applying for the people who will be receiving the benefits. So if it's just you, if you purchase and prepare your food separately, then it's just you. You are a household of one. Okay. If you're getting unemployment or any of that kind of stuff needs to be in there as well. Assets, bank account statements, that kind of thing need to be given as well. Shelter expenses, which includes rent or mortgage, including your utilities, which is like heat, electric, your phone, water, etc. If you're paying child support, if you have daycare expenses, medical, anything, shut-off notices, that's for emergency help. So if you are in the process of having your water shut off or your lights are turned off or whatever, you can apply for benefits to get help to turn them back on. Yeah, so any of that kind of stuff. And if you are applying for daycare, you're going to need some of this other stuff as well. So definitions of the differences between like cash, food, medical, and emergency assistance. Cash benefits are mostly for those who are disabled or who have children and live below the poverty line. Food benefits are for anyone who's living below the poverty line. Medical benefits are for anyone living below the poverty line and who doesn't have access to any other medical coverage, and we'll go over this a little more detailed later. Sorry. And the emergency assistance benefits for anyone who is below the poverty line, who is responsible for the household utilities such as electric, gas, water, rent, mortgage, etc., who is in danger of having them shut off or removed, or is in the process of being evicted for non-payment. Okay. So for verifications, to just turn them in, you can drop them off, you can mail them, you can fax them, you can do it online. Just make sure that you turn them in by the deadline or your case can be denied and you'll have to go through the whole process again. They're definitely sticklers for deadlines. Even 1 day late turning in your verification means that you might have to reapply. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay. So if our income doesn't count, do I still need to provide check stubs or proof that I'm serving? The short answer is absolutely. Provide check stubs or a written letter from your supervisor. If you're If you're uncomfortable asking for that from your supervisor, always ask Maggie. But don't forget to provide the income disregard letter explaining that we're getting a stipend, not a paycheck, because there is a difference. Okay, so if you have a second job, do you need to report that as income? Abso-friggin-lutely. Any income that is coming into your household needs to be reported, which also includes any Social Security check that you might be receiving, but does not include student loan income. That's a whole different category. And again, if you have questions, you can always ask me. Okay, so here's how to apply online. So you can apply for benefits at mybridges.michigan.gov. You can go into your local DHHS office and apply, and you might receive what's called an expedited food assistance bridge card. And if you do that, make sure that you go in and bring all of your verifications to make sure that the process goes smoothly. So what exactly is expedited? That means that you could qualify to receive an EBT card that day, which is the electronic benefits card. It's like a credit card. Because our stipend doesn't count as income, technically we don't have to have any money. Technically, we don't have any money coming into the household, which means that we qualify as a quote-unquote emergency. Usually these EBT cards are given out in circumstances where the applicant is homeless or has just lost a job recently. So some places will absolutely do this and some places won't. It's kind of up to their discretion. All right, so then what happens after you apply? You are assigned a caseworker, and you will receive a request for a telephone interview. Some places might still do the in-person, but for the most part, they've gone to the telephone interview. The caseworker will ask you basic questions just to verify some stuff, and then they will ask for the verifications that we've already gone over. You will receive a bridge card in the mail, unless, like we just talked about, you get the expedited one when you go into the office. You'll need to set up a PIN number, and then the number on the back of the card allows you to check your balance, and if something's wrong with the card, you can always call them, like if it's not working or whatever, you can call them and they'll tell you what to do. Just so you know that this line is monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but there are some pretty lengthy wait times sometimes, so don't be surprised if you're literally sitting on the phone for about an hour, because there's a lot of people calling in. Okay, something else to keep in mind is that there are redeterminations. At 6 months, there's a redetermination. You'll be asked to fill out a form asking if there's been any changes in your case. Make sure that you send this in or they will close your case. And then at 1 year, they will send another redetermination, and you might be required to send in some updated verifications this time, like if you renewed a lease or whatever. Again, make sure you send this in or they will close your case. This is a big deal. Also, if there's any significant changes in your life, make sure that you let the caseworker know. Don't sweat the small stuff too much. They're too busy to need your life story. So what I mean by that is that, like, we recently received a small increase for the cost of living in the check that averages out to like $2 to $4 a month. That is probably not going to affect your case, so that is not something that you would need to report. But do be aware, though, that when you're sending in these changes, that your income and expenses are going to make changes in your benefits. Like a second job, for instance, might cause a dip in your food assistance benefits, but if you think about it, you'll probably be earning more than the $194-ish that you're getting in assistance. And if you're earning enough, it can affect your Medicaid as well, but you are required to report these. So when you go on to My Bridges, it's very simple. You just hit the Report My Changes button, and it'll walk you right through what needs to be changed. So Medicaid, briefly, this is not Medicare. That's something else entirely. Medicare is for the disabled and the elderly primarily. Medicaid is for everyone else. So if you're not on your parents' insurance or a spouse's insurance, most businesses should qualify for Medicaid. It's low to no income. They do count your assets. There is a possibility for deductibles. My first year of VISTA, I paid about $20 to $30 a month for my HMO through Medicaid. It's usually not much more than that. If it is, you might want to give someone a call. If you don't qualify for Medicaid for whatever reason, you can always try the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. And then just to kind of clarify a little bit, there is like the second insurance thing. So if Medicaid doesn't cover the cost of something like a hospital stay, which they normally would, this coverage would kick in. So in that case, like if you have the backup plan of the AmeriCorps insurance or whatever, then that might pick up the cost if Medicaid doesn't. So this is just something to let you know that you are allowed to have Medicaid and the AmeriCorps stuff, because the AmeriCorps IMG program is not health insurance. It's like a backup. So that is, there might be some questions about that, and I'm happy to help you, but for the most part, I would encourage you to call any of these numbers. So if you have questions or concerns about your Medicaid, that is the number to call. There is a website that you can go to as well. The IMG coverage that is provided by VISTA, you can check it out on VISTA campus. They have a very comprehensive, giant booklet with every question you can ever come up with, or you can call them. And then any questions or concerns about the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, there's healthcare.gov, and there's a number to call as well. And we will be mailing this out, so if you need these numbers, we'll provide them to you. Okay, so here's my information again, just in case you have questions, concerns, anything that you can't ask here or don't want to ask here, but do need some clarification on. That's my email address, my work number, and then feel free to text me as well on my cell phone. That's totally fine. All right. Okay, so any questions, concerns, anything that you need to clarify?
You can use the raise your hand button, and we'll unmute you so you can ask your question over the phone, or you can type your question in the question box. What's the question? I don't know what you did.
I don't know what I did either. Okay. Do you apply for healthcare through marketplace.gov or MyBridges? I would start with Medicaid, so that would be, oh, I'm sorry. Let me read that question out loud again. I'm sorry. So do I apply for healthcare through the marketplace.gov or MyBridges? I would start with MyBridges. Always try Medicaid first. It's local, so it would be state instead of federal. So try Medicaid. If you don't qualify there, then you can try the marketplace.gov. The other thing is that you will find out whether you got it or not, usually within 1 to 2 weeks. So it's not like you're going to be going for months and months without knowing. Also, the other thing to remember is that when you apply for health care or food assistance, it always goes back to the day you apply. So even though maybe you apply on the 3rd, but you don't actually get approved until the 15th or something, it starts on the 3rd. So it will backdate. And that's true for health insurance. It's true for all of it. Thanks for your question, by the way. Okay. I'm not seeing any other questions or anything right now, so again, if you need to get in contact with me, please don't hesitate. I'm always happy to help. Do they just raise their hand? Yeah, if they want to. Okay. So we're going to talk about the poverty discussion, or whatever. If you would like to participate, if you want to answer one of the questions, you can either type it out in the chat, or you can raise your hand, and we will unmute you and let you talk for a little bit.
Usually the talking function works best if you've called in on the phone line rather than just speaking into your computer microphone. But if the computer microphone is all you have, let's try it.
All right, yeah, so this is a discussion, and so I want to hear your guys' thoughts about this article and your findings while reading it. So right now, I'm just going to open it up if anyone wants to
share any comments or opinions about the article. The article is called The Reductive Seduction of Other People's Problems. I hope you all read it. It's a really good article. We've read it in the past, and I think that this was a good article, especially to start off your service year. So I would really like someone to start us off.
And everybody jump up at once.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, there's Megan.
Megan!
All right.
Okay, Megan, go ahead.
Well, hi everyone again. I guess my main comment here is that I actually worked at the study abroad office at my university for 3.5 years, and everything in the article is pretty true about the overwhelming number of people who want to go abroad to solve problems that they feel like they understand or that they're interested in. And I really liked at the end of the article where it says, like, don't go because you've fallen in love with solvability, go because you've fallen in love with complexity. Don't go because you want to do something virtuous, go because you want to do something difficult. Don't go because you want to talk, go because you want to listen. Don't go because you love studying abroad, go because you plan on putting down roots. And I guess I just wanted to say that I tried really hard to help people understand that before they went.
There you go.
Oh, thanks for sharing that, Megan. I really liked how the article ended as well, because I think that people can think of this article in a negative way, especially people that have, like, I have done service abroad, and so it's like, hey, what the heck? But it actually puts things into perspective, and it does, like, I love how it ends on that type of note where it's like, instead of talking, listen, or fall in love with complexity. So now I'm going to move to the next slide, which I think it's been on this slide for a little bit. Oh, Shakita, go ahead.
Hi, Shakita.
Shakita, can you hear us? We can't hear you, actually, sorry.
Can you either keep fiddling with your sound stuff, or you can type your response into the question box, and we'd be happy to read it out loud to prompt the discussion.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, sorry. All right, so the first comparison in the article involves a 22-year-old woman and the complexity of gun control in the United States, and how you would have to go through a gun policy and how it's a complicated process and it can't be done overnight. But then it transitions over to how someone thinks that there are simple answers to pressing problems in Uganda. Did this put anything about, I don't know if you've ever heard of the term savior complex or the Western Knight, but did this put anything about the savior complex into perspective for you, or how did you feel about this comparison? And like I said, if you have something to say, I really want you to raise your hand because this is a discussion and I really want to hear everybody's opinions. Shakita, can you talk?
Okay.
No? Okay. What about you guys here? Do you have any opinions about the article?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. I thought that it put into perspective for me how you can't just go somewhere and completely understand a culture and their needs and their wants and their priorities. And so when we think about issues overseas, it's like, oh yeah, they need clean water. Obviously, we need to do something about that. But again, like, that's just a simple answer to a very complex problem that can't be easily solved overnight, or with just one person saying, oh, eureka, I have the answer. It's a process. So that's how it put it into perspective for me, was that all these issues are complicated for a reason. They're not easily solvable, you know.
I think it really struck home for me because when I initially signed up to do AmeriCorps, I was thinking like, I'm going to go and like save the world and fix things was like a huge sort of emphasis, and it wasn't recognizing the community's strengths as they stand. And I did relocate for my service, like out of state into a totally new city. So like I wasn't familiar with it kind of goes back to Jake's like integrating into the community before you start serving and understanding what the needs are. And for me, during my time, I didn't think 1 year was enough to be able to do that. But I know a lot of people in our cohort are serving in communities that they're already from. And the different emphasis here, too, is with capacity building, and a lot of people are getting projects off the ground. So a lot of our sites are in their first year, and your role in that case really is like listening to the community and creating a program that will address what the community says that they need. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. I think, capacity building is very important as well. And so for my experience, I went to Alma College where there's a program called P Global, the Posey Global Scholarship or Award, and you could apply for it. It was from this family that donated a bunch of money so people could do work overseas. And so you can apply for a P Global Scholarship, and you had to put together a proposal where you wanted to go, what you wanted to do. And a lot of people, they went to Sierra Leone and they worked in a hospital, or they went to Ghana and taught in a school. And they were only there for like a month to 2 months, I think. And a lot of my friends that did go, their programs they weren't successful because, one, they were only there for 2 months, and two, they were just there by themselves, or maybe one other person, and they would come in and say, oh, I'm in Sierra Leone, I know what you need, I'm here to fix things. And that's not how it works. So that was, and I never did a P Global, but when I first came in, I was the same as Maggie. When I first came in and I heard about this scholarship in college, I was like, I'm going to save the world. Like, I'm going to apply for this, and I'm going to save Sierra Leone at the hospital when it's not realistic. And with the good intentions are there. You know, they're not bad intentions. And I just wanted to keep that, and I want you guys to keep that in mind too, that we're going to get on to this, but you know, the reductive seductionist is not malicious.
Okay, actually, Lauren, I'm going to unmute you.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I think you guys have all highlighted what I was going to say too, which is that this article really pointed to ethnocentrism, in that a lot of us see groups of people who are different from us or who have worse off circumstances than us, and we apply that othering mindset, like these people are different from me, they're the other, and then sort of assume that our way of living is inherently better than theirs, or that they might be aspiring to live in a way that's similar to us, while they might have totally different goals or expectations of what a happy, stable, good life would look like. And especially when we're going overseas or serving in communities that we don't know and trying to apply our own perspectives, we can really silence the voices of the communities that we're serving.
Yes, I totally agree. We
also have Zakia.
Hand
up.
All right.
Zakia, are you there, girl?
Then I think she moved to the question.
Oh,
Okay. All right, hold on. We've got a couple of people writing in. Go ahead. Wait, how does that...
Go to the top. So, sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
Chiquita said, my computer's not working with the microphone, but I can hear you guys. I don't know where to find the article. It was included in the weekly update for the last couple weeks. That's where you'll find it in preparation for each monthly webinar. Nonetheless, Chiquita can relate to the discussion based on the previous experiences, which includes the line, don't go to talk, but to listen is important to understand when working with impoverished communities and disenfranchised people, because it is ineffective to assume what people need. Rather, it's more important to just ask what they need. Tyler also, there's something else here.
No, that's Chiquita's again. So this.
Oh, but I didn't get that.
yes, you did.
This part about returning.
Yeah. Oh.
Sorry, Shakita, I read your messages out of order. The savior complex is also a crucial aspect of this article to pay close attention to because you will encounter people who only want to participate if they are seen as the superhero. In fact, the purpose of serving to build capacity and implement sustainable solutions and not necessarily serve for something in return, such as accolades, bragging rights, an enormous salary, that's the Maggie input, and recognition, or because you feel sorry for someone and want to do them a favor. Okay. Sorry I read it out of order. It was a really good comment. Tyler also mentioned that the article was helpful for giving him some additional ways to frame his decision to serve domestically rather than abroad. So when he shared his decision to join AmeriCorps with people in his hometown, they didn't understand why he was choosing to go to the UP as opposed to going to Thailand to teach English or to serve with the Peace Corps. That's a great point.
Yeah.
We also have other comments. Alejandra has a comment.
Yes.
Okay, Zakia said, I didn't mind the analogy
She has something
as much, but I think that this is missing a piece on race and the history of white people trying to civilize and colonize people of color who are seen as incapable of handling and managing their own problems. I think this should have been taken into account in the article, and we could have interrogated how the issue of race plays out in this. Also, she's not a fan of voluntourism. Alejandra says, I also believe that by us having those basic resources at home, we believe that it is something very easy to establish somewhere else, but we do not take into consideration policy processes of those particular locations. Also, as someone mentioned, culture is a very important component of human ideology that shapes the lifestyle.
That's a really good point, Alejandra.
Thanks, guys. This is great.
Yes, I'm so glad that you guys are. Oh, Megan.
All right, hold on, I gotta unmute you.
Okay, go ahead, Megan.
Hi again, everyone. Again, with my study abroad advisor experience, one of the biggest things too about people going abroad is that they, it's also about, living there, right? And I think people forget about that. Like they have all these big ideals, and then going there, getting to know the community, feeling comfortable living there. I mean, it's not always what you expect. Like some people love it and they, can live in another country very happily, but other people, they miss, the conveniences of home to an extreme, and it clouds, I've seen it cloud people's judgments and things like that. So that was one point. And then the other point, though, is that I have seen effective nonprofits abroad in ways where they accept people for just a month, but they're these, like I actually am thinking of one specifically in Ghana called Challenging Heights, that it's run by Ghanaians, but they have a long-standing relationship with one university, and they accept university students from there. And so the teachers are very familiar, and they can prep the students very deeply. And so even though it's only a month experience, I think that it is meaningful. So I guess my point is, if you are going to choose to do an experience like that, being prepared, doing your research about who's running the organization and how it works, I think can really make a more meaningful impact.
Absolutely. That's a really good point, Megan. Thank you.
Okay.
Alrighty. So, like I said a little bit earlier, the reductive seduction is not malicious, but it can be reckless. That was taken out of the article. I also think a lot of times it's not only reckless, but it's also unsustainable. But I'm wondering, do you agree with this statement? Why or why not? You can also give examples from the article or from real life experience why you think the reductive seductionist is malicious and or not malicious. Also, before I take any comments, also in the article it said the reductive seduction is not malicious, it's psychologically defensible. And also there's the fact that since we aren't overseas, we don't know what we don't know. So there's also that to go along with it is that, maybe we think these are so simple, these are simple answers to complex problems because we just don't know what we don't know. So I'm going to open it up for discussion. So go ahead and raise your hand or...
Shakita added, overall it's important to understand that if and when you relocate or serve in a completely new environment, to be transparent, be yourself, and be open-minded and ready to learn and grow. Also, poverty is a systemic issue, so understanding the history of poverty, not only at home, but also where you serve overseas, will help you be productive in your service term and ultimately make a meaningful difference. I think that's a really great point, and I'm kind of curious to hear from you all. Should we sort of explore the history of poverty a little bit more with our program? Would a good future poverty discussion article be looking at sort of this history of poverty? Mm-hmm. Raise your hand if you're paying attention and you think that exploring the history of poverty within the U.S. would be of interest. Oh my God, I love you guys. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you guys are actively participating. It means so much because we're a team, guys. We are. All right, if there's no other comments for this slide, I'm going to move on to the next slide.
All right, I'm going to put all of your hands down, so if you have something to say,
re-raise it.
Re-raise your hand.
And we will look into articles to study the history of poverty in the United States, you guys. In the poverty discussion, here are some examples that they talked about of projects over. Oh, can you go to the next slide?
Oh yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Sorry. So these pictures are projects that were done overseas that failed. They were not sustainable. So these were in the article. The one on the left is the play pump. The Clinton Foundation made funded the play pump, and it was supposed to generate enough, or it was supposed to produce safe drinking water for the village that it was in. So the thing is that this sounds great. You play on this merry-go-round. The playground produces safe drinking water. Sounds great. Well, not so great, because in the article it says that kids would have to play 27 hours a day to produce the water that the play pump had promised. So it's pretty much labor, and it's not fun anymore at that point. Also, after they had broken down, there was no tools and no way to fix them. So they said that within a year of its implementation, 1/4 of the pumps in Zambia alone were in disrepair with no tools to fix them. So now these are broken. They're not producing safe drinking water, and in the beginning they didn't produce, or it wasn't clear how much playing this was going to have to take to produce safe drinking water for that community. Second thing, the socket, which is on the left, is a soccer ball that generates light. It's an energy generating soccer ball. The problem with these soccer balls was that due to manufacturing and quality control errors, and also just putting the product out too soon before testing it, the product was defunct. So in here in the United States, we say, oh, well, they don't work, but to communities that they gave these to, there were high hopes, and they were defunct. So those were the two examples. I actually found those online, the pictures. And it also talks about Tom's Shoes, how it actively caused harm by taking away clients from local businesses with their buy one, give one model. So local businesses that were selling shoes, they ran out of business because they were getting their shoes from Tom's. But it also states that in the article that they since changed their supply chain. I'm not exactly sure how. I didn't look into it. Also with Tom's Shoes, this was not in the article, but this was when I was doing my research, was that it's interesting to do a cost-benefit analysis between giving people shoes, but possibly like putting in outhouses or providing safer areas for people to walk on, because they want these kids to wear shoes because where they're walking is full of trash, it's full of bacteria, they get sick. So that's the idea with these shoes. But wouldn't it be more sustainable to put in outhouses but then again, that's me being a reductive seduction and thinking I have the simple answers to things. So there's a good example of that. Yeah. All right. Any comments for that?
Glad you're aware of it, Sheila.
Yeah, no, I am aware of it. But I think like, do they need shoes or should they have safer walking grounds? You know, but I don't know.
That's fair. I mean, I think there's always like a question when you do this kind of work between, do you work for an immediate solution? So
Yeah.
if it's going to take a while to build an outhouse to create a safer walking ground, but there's still going to be people getting sick in the meantime.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that? No, but
Yeah.
that's what makes these really complex and systemic problems.
And I was just wondering the cost-benefit analysis of like the cost of giving them shoes. Like how much does it cost to give all these people shoes versus how much does it cost to implement outhouses or like clean up areas that have a lot of bacteria or are trash ridden? I don't know. I was thinking cost-benefit analysis. All right, moving on. All right, so this next part of the presentation article talks about the unexotic underclass, which is single mothers, veterans, the elderly, and things that we see every day in our communities. So while thousands of the country's best and brightest flock to far-flung places to ease the unfamiliar suffering and tackle foreign dysfunction, we've got plenty of domestic need. There's a lot of need here. Like there's a lot that can be done right here domestically, but it's unexotic and it's not as glorious as we think overseas experiences would be. Do you agree with this statement? Why or why not? And then also I'm interested in to see or to hear what type of need do you see in the community that you're working with on a daily basis? Anyone?
Whoa, Ashlyn, thank you.
Oh, all right, there you go, Maggie.
So Ashlyn says, this is in response to the last slide. I read this in one of the comments and it hit home for me. Working for development doesn't mean buying Toms, and it doesn't mean investing in gimmicky water pumps. It means mobilizing politically and socially against the systemic causes of underdevelopment. A few of these include fighting against corporations hiding billions in tax dollars from governments overseas, organizing against American agricultural tax subsidies that harm farmers in other countries, and avoiding foreign policies that can cause instability in other countries. Thank you for sharing that, Ashlyn. That's wonderful. Any other thoughts? I know a lot of you have done the PSO blend, so you've probably been looking at what poverty looks like in your community and what the need is in the area. So Shakita says, great point, Ashlyn. Danielle says that she serves foster youth in Midland and Saginaw counties. She sees homelessness and lack of food and transportation daily. And Alejandra says, yes, I could not agree more. It is imperative that if we want to fix others' problems, we should fix our own first. There's high levels of blight that cause an unsafe environment for families to strive in my community.
All right, any other comments or anything else in the chat? So some quotes that I took from the article about this, let's go back actually. So one of the quotes is, the unexotic underclass can help address one of the biggest inefficiencies plaguing the startup scene right now, the flood of ostensibly smart, ambitious young people desperate to be entrepreneurs and the embarrassingly idea-starved landscape where too many smart people are chasing too many dumb ideas. The unexotic underclass has big problems, but maybe not the big problems. It says capital B, capital P, that get discussed at Davos, but they have problems nonetheless. So a lot of these international service projects people go to do work overseas, it's seen as glamorous. We see pictures of it all the time. And it's not as glamorous to work at your local soup kitchen. You don't get the same type of, I guess, recognition that you do, even though it's just as important. And I actually have learned from doing AmeriCorps how much I want to help my own community and be involved in my community and know my community's needs instead of, and I wouldn't be opposed to doing work overseas, but it definitely put things into perspective for me where I was like, I want to help my community. I am right here. I see this every day. So that's something that I just wanted to add. Next slide. So let's talk about Molly Melching and her work in Dakar. So, whatever. She didn't just work in Dakar, but she worked in Senegal. Oh, we have 5 minutes. Okay, we have 5 minutes. So Molly Melching, what was different about her work is that, and this isn't everybody's life calling, but she has been living in or around Dakar since 1974, and she is widely credited with ending, it says FGC, but female genital mutilation, FGM, as it's also known in Senegal. But what it said in the article is that it wasn't easy and it didn't happen overnight. So since she's been there since 1974, so like 40 years, it took a long time to make way with just this one issue. And she integrated in this community. She became an important part of it. And she made sure to put down strong roots and build relationships in the community and understanding the needs and respecting their culture, their norms, and also helping them advocate for human rights when maybe they felt like they didn't have a voice. This I thought was very interesting because she has spent her life's work working on eradicating FGM or FGC in Senegal. Sometimes it takes 40 years to get to know your community. It doesn't happen in 1 month or 1 year. So that was something that I thought was very interesting in the article. Does anyone have any comments about that? Let's see. You want to read those for me? Right there. This one.
Okay. So Rachel says, I think that many people see the go-to pictures of starving children in Africa with flies on their face. It hits an emotional chord and we see it as an immediate need. We don't see pictures like that in America.
Okay. That's a good point. That was for the last slide. All right. We can go on to the next thing since we are almost over time. Anything else that you wanted to add to the discussion? Any other comments in the chat that you wanted to put? This is just open for you guys if there was anything else that you wanted to talk about. If not, we are going to go on to housekeeping. So we'll leave it for a second. Overall, I think this was a really good article and it seemed like it resonated with a lot of you, and I'm really glad to hear all of your comments and all of your opinions about this article and poverty local that we see every day and poverty that we see overseas. So I'm really glad, and I love having discussions like this. So we should make every poverty discussion like this.
Also, if you guys, when you're running the course of your life, I don't know why I phrased it like that, but in your daily life, if you run across articles related to poverty that you think would be great for our discussion or to share with our group, please feel free to do so, either via the Facebook group or send it to Jake or Shaylin, Meg, or myself so that we can tee it up and share it with everyone else. It'll be really easy, I think, during the course of the year to get lost in the day-to-day of what you're doing, and the goal of the poverty discussion is really to root us in why we're all doing this work and serving in this capacity this year.
Okay, I don't think we have any further questions or anything right now. So again, if you want to continue talking with us, go ahead and send out some emails and we'll be happy to speak with you and each other. All right. So housekeeping.
So Michigan Campus Compact, who is an affiliate partner of Michigan Nonprofit Association, and many of you are serving through Michigan Campus Compact sites. They're holding a Partners in Change conference in Dearborn, November 3rd and 4th. It's really geared for people who are in or working around the themes of higher education. But Jake and Shaylin are presenting at it. I'm presenting at it. I encourage you, if you're interested, to let us know. They're doing specific national service member pricing for the conference. And I think it'll be really interesting. They're bringing together not only student leaders at universities, but also faculty and staff and community members who are working in that realm. And there are several different tracks within the conference. We are still looking for some VISTAs, so if you know anybody who has a like-minded interest in service and wants to better, better develop themselves and Michigan communities during their year, let us know, because our deadline is in just like 2.5 weeks.
No pressure though.
Yeah. And then site visits will be coming up on our end. I've started scheduling some of them. Just a heads up, yours is coming. If I haven't already reached out to you, we're gonna get in contact and talk about it soon. And then accountability buddies.
I'll be sending out an email for you to make sure that you guys are getting in touch with your accountability buddies. So if you haven't gotten in touch with your accountability buddy already, you should definitely do that, because it's been you guys just met a few weeks ago.
Yeah. And if you haven't already turned in your timesheet and monthly report, please do so. Or your on-site orientation checklist. By the way, guys, I did not realize this, again, is the first year of the PSO blend, so we didn't realize that they were going to give you basically almost the same checklist that we do. We've been doing that on-site orientation checklist with our program for years, so I didn't realize that. So thank you to those of you who basically duplicated your efforts and sent it in to us. I really appreciate that, and this is going to be a learning year for all of us. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intentionally be disrespectful of your time. Okay, I think that's it. It's 11 o'clock, and again, we want to respect your time. So we'll hang out for a couple minutes if you have any questions or anything else that you'd like to follow up with us on. Otherwise, good luck, happy hump day, and have a great rest of the week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Hey, Ben, do you have a question for us?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, hey, I didn't find any emails with the articles that were discussed today. Do you know if maybe I misplaced it or if I wasn't on one of the distribution lists?
No, I don't think you were on the original distribution list. We didn't want to start sending you info and kind of overwhelm you before you officially started, because it might be kind of confusing. So
Okay.
no worries about that part. Sorry on our end that we didn't also send a separate email giving you like a heads up about that, though.
Okay, no problem. And then next Monday, will I also learn about accountability buddies, timesheets, and monthly reports?
Yep. Yeah, I promise we will cover that. Hey, do you have a specific email for the ROC?
Yes, I do.
Can you send me an email from that email so that way we can get your work email added into all of our email lists?
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that today.
Okay, thank you. And yeah,
All right.
sorry for not having you in the loop, but hopefully the discussion was helpful and gave you an idea of what you can expect during the year.
Okay, yeah, not a problem. All right, those are the only questions I have. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.
Nope, sorry.
Okay, Shakita, Shaylin will follow up with you separately about the articles/books that Molly lady wrote.
Yeah, are you asking specifically about Molly Melching or the article for this webinar?
We're gonna,
Molly.
yeah.
Oh, she's written a few books. I'll look for some articles and send them to you.
Okay. And everyone else, we're gonna close out the webinar now, but you know, we're always on email in case you want to talk to us about anything. So have a good day. Bye.